It's time to fire this thing up.
Welcome aboard ShipShape TV Essentials. This is your port of call for the most impactful upgrades, expert advice, and hands-on solutions from seasons past. This episode is proudly brought to you by SureHold, because anything worth doing is worth doing bright. From cleaning to protecting and perfecting, SureHold has everything you need to keep your boat shining. Don't just go boating, go showboating. Now, let's hoist anchor and set a course for another exciting episode of ShipShape TV Essentials.
If boating's your game, then you agree. ShipShape is the way to be. Out on the lake or on the sea, ShipShape means trouble-free. ShipShape means being neater. ShipShape makes boat work easier. ShipShape is the way to go. The ShipShape Boat Care Show.
It's great to have you working around the boat with us today. I'm John Greviskis. What I'm doing here is I'm removing this bottom paint off the back of this Pursuit in order to expose the blisters. We're going to need to repair them before we can add our custom transom plate to the back of this boat. The reason we're going to put a plate on here is we want to stiffen up the back and switch it from a single outboard to twin. We're also going to show you how to fill in some old motor mounts and how to properly fill in your old transducer holes. We've got quite a bit of work to do today. Get ready. We're going to show you some great ways to make your boat shipshape.
ShipShape, America's favorite boat improvement show, is being brought to you in part by the most complete new and used boat sales, service, and brokerage facilities, Great American Marine, and by Thomas Marine Marketing, the best place on the West Coast to buy or sell your used boat, and by West Florida's newest Robalo dealer, Kenyon Powerboats, where Florida boaters shop and save.
What we have here are a bunch of Gelcoat blisters on the back of this boat. What I'm using is a DA sander with some 80 grit paper, and what we need to do is we need to expose these blisters to fresh air. And I need to grind it down, and you'll see some water that's been trapped in between the Gelcoat and fiberglass. You'll see it ooze out. Do you see that water that just came out there? That's the blister with that water in between those two layers.
Wow, looks like you got your hands full, John.
You got that one right. Hey Nick, why do boats get blisters anyway?
Well, there's a couple reasons, John. One is sometimes the gel coat isn't applied thick enough in mold when a boat's being laid up. Or the next step, when the skin coat goes down, that's the mat,
right,
there might not be enough resin in the skin coat, leaving some dry spots. And finally, and usually the most common, and it looks like that might be the case here, is that the boat sits in the water a real long time unprotected.
One of the things you can't control is proper bottom job.
That's right, John. Let's go up to the front of the boat and take a look at some areas, and maybe we could show these guys some tips of things that they should avoid.
What do we have going on up here?
Well, take a look here. We've got a real smooth section where it wasn't sanded enough.
Yeah.
And the bottom paint doesn't stick to shiny, smooth gel coat, and this boat's 15 years old and it's still smooth and shiny, so it was never prepped properly.
So the bottom paint chipped off and water seeped through the gel coat?
Right, the gel coat's porous and the water just soaked in and eventually created the blisters.
Good stuff. Well, right now we need to go to break, but stick around because when we come back, we're going to show you a revolutionary new way to fix blisters. Stay with us.
ShipShape TV will be right back. We now return to ShipShape TV.
When you seriously want your expensive wax and buffing pads rejuvenated to a like-new condition, you seriously want Sure-Hold Industries Serious Pad Cleaner. Scientifically formulated to quickly dissolve compounds and waxes from all wool pads, foam pads, microfiber towels, cotton bonnets, even blended buffing pads. All it takes is adding this Serious Pad Cleaner powder to your arsenal. Serious Pad Cleaner, another answer from Sure-Hold Industries' clean and simple solutions for detailing all your toys.
If you have a new boat or a boat that's never been in the water and you want to start keeping it in the water for a prolonged period of time, it's going to need to be bottom painted. And to do a proper bottom job, I like to use like a DA sander with 80 grit paper and rough up the entire surface. What I'm trying to do is two things. I'm trying to get some of the original wax that the manufacturer sprayed into the mold.
And it's in a gel coat too.
Out, exactly.
Yep.
I also want to rough up the entire surface, making a nice adhesion, nice adhering surface.
Well, that's what happened up here. It wasn't rough and it just peeled right away.
Absolutely. So it's very important that you sand. Also, if you keep the boat in the water for a prolonged period of time, you're going to want to keep an eye on it for any growth. Rule of thumb is the warmer the climate, the more organic growth you're going to experience. Now, after you sand it, I like to seal it with like a marine water barrier coating. And 3M puts out a good product to do that. It's important to seal that gel coat off completely away from that water. Otherwise, you're going to get blisters, which is what we have here. Now, Nick, what is the traditional way that guys have fixed their blisters?
Very similar to what we've done here, John. You take and strip the bottom down and then dish out the blisters till you're back to dry glass. And after you dish these things out, you want it to sit for about a week to keep that moisture out of there, because any type of material you put in won't bond to the moisture.
So it needs to dry out.
Correct.
Okay.
Then after you would lay it back in with some fiberglass, you'd cover it with epoxy. Pretty time-consuming and lengthy process there.
Now you've discovered this revolutionary new way to fix blisters, and I can't wait to show it to me.
Sure. 3M came up with a green blister and repair filler. And the reason I'm confident that this material is going to work is its chemical makeup. It has vinyl ester resins and fiberglass fillers built in it, making it real strong. And simply put, apply it, let it kick, sand it, go to the blister or the barrier, and paint. You're done.
Well, knowing you, Nick, I'm sure that we already have a batch made. Let's go ahead and put some on.
Well, normally I would, John, but I wanted to take this opportunity to go over a couple little mixing techniques when you're using a cream base hardener filler. The first is the hardener itself. You want to knead the tube so we thoroughly mix the different chemicals inside the tube. The second tip is I want to let you guys know it's not a real good idea to mix the stuff up either on cardboard or on wood because it's porous and it absorbs. So when you mix in your hardener and you're stirring it, the hardener sometimes gets absorbed into the cardboard and you don't mix the filler properly. Mix thoroughly, you're ready to go. An even, consistent color.
Now what you're looking to do when you're fairing this stuff in, guys, is apply it into your blister hole, and you can use a real thick amount with this stuff. You don't have to build it up in layers like with typical fairing compounds. You can go ahead and fill the entire blister and then let it dry. The cure time is about 20 minutes, and then you can go ahead and sand and fair it in. Right now I want to show you this new boat that's out on the water. Let's have a look. This week on What's Hot in the Water, we're going to take a look at the ProLine 240 with Randy Inch, the general sales manager out here at Great American Marine. Randy, this is a really nice boat. Tell me about it.
She's a great offshore fishing boat. She's 25.5 overall length, has an 8.5 foot beam, so she is trailerable. Does come with a full transom and a bracket, and it's a stainless marine bracket with the motor mounted to it. Has a little over 140 gallon fuel capacity on board. Now ProLine does use all aluminum baffled fuel tanks in all of their boats. So she's a good offshore fishing boat.
They took all the meat and potatoes of the 27 and they put it into this 24.
Absolutely. When you look at the two boats from a distance, they're very similar. Same center console, same big enclosed head down below, same leaning post on it. Basically what they've done was scaled that 27 down to a 24-footer, made the 24-footer trailerable, and of course, obviously more affordable at the same time.
Tell me about the construction of the boat.
ProLine uses FIS construction. It's a totally fiberglass construction. There's no wood in the hull, no wood in the deck, literally no wood in the construction of the boat at all. We use all Divinacell and Clegicells throughout the construction of the boat. It's all foam cored in all of the boats, even the big 3400 ProLine is foam coring for safety and, of course, sound deadening action.
This boat has a lot of neat options. Tell me about them.
Well, we start off with the fish package, which is your live well raw water washdown system. It also has a freshwater sink on the transom. There is a 15-gallon water capacity on board the boat. We also have a convenience package. Now, the convenience package is more for the pleasure boat gentlemen, where it has springline cleats, cockpit lights, swim platforms, bow cushions up in the front of the boat. This particular boat has a T-top with rocket launchers from ProLine on board.
What kind of power would you recommend going on this boat?
Well, most of the ones that we will stock will have either a 200 or the 225. This particular boat has a 225 EFI on board, so the performance range is very good. She's in the mid to upper 40-mile-an-hour top speed.
You do have twin capabilities.
Right, you can go up to twin 150s on board, and that's more for the gentleman who might want to go 70, 80 miles offshore and be a little safe and secure with the second engine.
Fantastic. Give me a price on the boat, Randy.
This particular boat, as she sits rigged with the equipment we talked about, is in the low 40s price tag.
Okay, very fair, very fair. Now, we've looked at ProLine, the 240 today. Let's talk about why we should buy that ProLine from Great American Marine.
Well, we are one of ProLine's largest dealers in the country. We are a large, full-service marina. We've got the capabilities of working on 12-footers or working on 80-footers. We've got 40 and 60-ton travel lifts. One of the great things with us is we've been here a lot of years. Guys like us will come and go in this business, but this marina will be here to service you and to upgrade you down the road, and that's very important. A lot of people have purchased a boat from someone who is no longer in business, and there's nothing more frustrating to figure out, who is going to service my boat, and we will be here for them in the long run.
Absolutely. You've been here a long time, you're here now, and you're going to be here in the future.
Yeah.
When somebody buys a boat from Great American, it's just the start of the relationship.
Absolutely.
So you guys take that a step far. How do we get down to Great American Marine?
Here in the St. Petersburg area, we're located in Pasadena Avenue, or Pasadena area. We're at 6810 Gulfport Boulevard. We also have a marina down in Sarasota as well, and that's on Tamiami Trail, about a mile south of the airport.
If you're coming from Tampa, how do we get over here?
Get on the Howard Franklin 275 in the St. Pete, get off at exit number 6, head west. We're 3.5 miles on your left-hand side.
Come on down and take a look at the ProLine 240. Talk with Randy Inch. You'll be glad you did. That looked like a great boat to have a bunch of fun on. I've moved locations. I'm now indoors at J&R Metal Fabrications with Chuck Kenberger, the owner, and you're going to be building our transom plate today, Chuck, and I was wondering if you could bring us up to speed on what's been happening.
Well, I've already cut it all up and tacked it together, and I measured your boat the other day to get started on it.
What material are we using?
We're using 1/4-inch aluminum, marine grade aluminum.
Okay. Now, who donated the material for our project today?
Eastern Metal Supply in Lake Worth.
That was great. This looks like it's the piece that goes on the outside of the boat.
Correct, it is.
This is going on the inside of the boat. What are these for?
These are, I'm tying these into the motor well to try to give the transom a little more strength, because you told me you're going to put twins on this boat.
Right.
And I'm just trying to make it a little stronger for you.
Chuck, what are the reasons that people put transom plates on their boat?
Usually because the wood's rotted out on them.
Okay.
Somebody's put a motor on or a transducer or something, and didn't seal it right, and what his water's got in there and rotted the wood.
We're also going to show people how to seal those transoms properly. So this is acting kind of as a Band-Aid?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a point of return where you can't return? Is there a point on that transom when it rots that you just can't bring it back? With one of these?
They just get so bad there's actually no wood left there to fix. I mean,
Okay.
it's just
But in a lot of cases, these things make sense.
90% of the time you can do something with them.
Give me an approximate life expectancy.
4 or 5 years you're getting before you have to worry about your boat again. Longer if you get it fixed.
Well, hopefully that's a lot more affordable than a boat. What are we looking at?
$600-700.
It's very affordable.
Yeah.
Show us what we're doing here.
All right.
You're gonna make a weld?
Yeah.
Hoods on. right now we need to go to break. Stick around.
Carrie Horowitz of Palm Bay, Florida asks, is there a difference between the laws as they apply to boating and land-based activities? Answer coming up from maritime attorney Gail Hawks right after these messages. Here is today's maritime law question. Is there a difference between the laws as they apply to boating and land-based activities?
There are a number of differences between land-based law and maritime law, or law that applies to boats. That's usually referred to as maritime law, admiralty law, sometimes federal maritime law. Generally speaking, that law applies to the navigable waters of the United States, whether it's within the state boundaries or not. Now, some states have statutes that apply to maritime matters as well, and then there's a question of whether the federal law applies or whether the state law applies. But generally, federal maritime law applies.
If you have a question for maritime attorney Gail Hawks, leave it with the ShipShape TV memo board on the World Wide Web, www.shipshapetv.com. And now back to the project.
While we were away on break, we unscrewed the transducer from the transom of the boat. Then what we did is we took a countersink and we dished out the holes, enlarging them. Traditionally, what we would use is an epoxy resin, and we would fill it into those holes and back it with some fiberglass and then finish it off. But what we're going to use in place of it is a 3M Marine Premium filler to fill those holes. Then all we did was sand the transom smooth, making it ready for our transom plate. Now we're ready to install our transom plate, but before we can mount it on the back of this transom, we need to put some 5200 on, some good sealant. Nick, why don't you go ahead and do the honors?
All right.
Now, how are we going to attach this, Nick? Are we going to through bolt it or are we going to screw it?
What we're going to do, John, is you notice I've got some holes drilled along the bottom and on the front side, and they're countersunk. We're going to run some number 14 self-tapping Phillips head screws in and pull it into place, and that's going to give us an even distribution of 5200.
Okay.
But the key here is when the engine's bolted on, the engine's going to squeeze the plate on and also become an attaching point with the engine bolts.
So the engines are going to be the through bolts, and our screws are going to help suck it up to the transom.
That's right. That's keep any waves or anything out of it.
Great.
Now, we know about 5200, or if we don't, we probably ought to let you know. 5200 is a polyurethane slow-drying marine sealant. Actually, water helps promote its curing, but you don't want to use 5200 in an application that if you have to take anything back off again. And we know this transom plate's going to be on here for a good long while, so there's no sense in us taking it back off. But if you're going to need to seal something up like a hatch or part of the deck where you want to cut it back off later, you want to use either a different grade. I think there's a 4200, which is a little softer, or maybe just a marine silicone.
Nick, can you give me a hand putting this on?
Yeah.
Now, what are we looking to do here?
All right, first thing we want to make sure is we're centered up. And let's set the front on about an inch or so. And then we want to pull on the back because you have to pull out on the bottom as you're pushing down.
Okay.
All right, your side down a little bit.
Yep. It's coming.
Yeah, we want that 5200 to spread. Okay, I need to go your way a little bit. Will you hand me that mallet?
Sure. Yeah, about another 3/8 of an inch, Nick.
Have a look at that scupper, okay?
Perfect. And guys, whenever you're working with 5200, you want to make sure that you have some mineral spirits handy so you can wipe up any excess, which we have a little bit here. The mineral spirits cuts it down, and you can wipe it right up. And Nick, what do we have to do? Attach it on the inside first?
Yeah, we want to pull the inside in along the transom and then come along the back. So let's get a couple screws in here. We'll pilot hole first. Then we'll run some screws in. Gonna get some 5200 on these screws before we run them in. Now with aluminum, you want to start in the middle and spread your way out. We're going to do like we did up on the front side, and we're going to start in the middle and drill our pilot holes, and then we'll work our way out again and spread this plate right to the transom. And again, after the pilot holes, we're going to coat the screws with 5200 and install them.
Here's what's coming up next on Shipshape TV. We now return to Shipshape.
Okay, we've got our transom plate pretty much wrapped up. We're ready to hang engines. Final thing we want to do here on the transom is install our transducer. We've chosen a new Hummingbird wide power mount. First thing I want to let you know is make sure you read the instructions before installing any transducer. We're going to give you a couple little hints here. Now, you want to mount your transducer away from the lifting strakes because of the turbulence that comes off of the strakes. And you want to try to keep the transducer about 12 to 15 inches away from your engine centers. That gives us this area right here. So we're going to start with the template that's supplied with the unit. And the template gives us some points in order to figure out whether or not we have to angle our transducer. The transducer will work with up to about a 15-degree dead rise. And it seems at this location we're okay. I'm going to pre-drill these 3 holes and then mount the transducer. Okay, as usual, we want to use a drill bit that's a little smaller than the screw we're going to install. Now on these, we want to take the 5200 and we want to force it right into the holes. That way when the screws go in, we know that they're going to get covered up, and then we'll put a little bit on the threads of the screws as well. Now we're going to install these screws, but we're not going to tighten them all the way because we have to adjust the height of the transducer. Okay, now we install the transducer in the bracket, keeping in mind that the transducer should be between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch below the bottom of the boat. We have adjustable pivot screws on the outside to set the angle. We want the angle vertical. This unit is also equipped with a speed and temperature sensor. Now we're going to mount the speed and temp sensor here on the strake because it's not affected by the turbulence as the transducer would be.
Well, I got to tell you, Nick, we got a lot of work done today on this boat. But we're about out of time, so until next week, guys, keep your boat ship-shape. You know, Nick, I was thinking after we get this transducer mounted and we get this plate on, we're going to have to put both engines I got to tell you, the last place I went to had 2 steps. One socially, one physically. You're killing me.
Ship-shape means being eater. Ship-shape makes both